Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel. Wow, you guys are out of control, man. I just woke up to 3,000 subs and it doesn't make any sense, but it's just testament to how much you guys love music and how much you guys love, metal and people reacting to those things. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And today I'm going to do something a little bit outside the box for me because this one I've got zero concept of. I know you guys have requested it a few times. The band is Unleash the Archers and the song is Tonight We Ride. So I chose this one because I'm sure it came up in the recommendations, but also because it seemed like a pretty popular video when I YouTubed. I got no idea what this is. Nothing. Completely off the radar for me. And so, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I'm going to assume possibly a female vocalist. I'm not sure based on a few of the thumbnails I saw. But that's as much as I know. So this is going to be pretty exciting. Let's just jump straight in. A Dragon Force kind of vibe, eh? It's Mad Max. Oh, good change up. Now we're talking. Okay, before we get into the song, let's just jump back. There's a few things there. Wow. Okay, so initially, the initial thing that you hear in the song is a drum fill that's got a phaser or a flanger or something on there, which is a little bit unusual, but it certainly caught my attention. But then you've got this rapid fire sort of thing. Like I said, I likened it a little bit to Dragon Force because it's that hyper tempo sort of blast beat kind of thing. But then you've got some weird sort of, there's some Euro metal influences, but then, you've got this harmonized guitar solo that's reminiscent more of Iron Maiden. It's just this melange of like influences and they all fit together real nice. I like it. It's just, also love the Mad Max vibe. That's really cool. Love that. That's just Power Metal 101. Nice harmony too. Wow, she's got a low tone. I just noticed the drum kit is made out of like jerry cans and stuff. That's really cool. But what an unusual voice. That's so different. She is using, I would say that she's maybe a mezzo or something like that. She's not a soprano, at least to my ears anyway. Again, I'm not a vocal coach, so this is sort of just stuff I've picked up through years of talking to singers and stuff like that. But she seems like she's got a lower tone like a mezzo, but she's using high vocal technique that's reminiscent of like male 80s singers, hitting those high notes through that sort of false power falsetto. I'm not sure exactly what you'd call it, but you can clearly hear where she transitions from just her regular chest voice to this, rather than just having a range where she can hit those high notes, she's using like this weird, it's like this quasi falsetto belt thing that they used to do in the 80s to get those super high notes. Like, because typically men aren't capable of hitting those notes, so they just figured out a way of doing it, you know? And so it's this, it reminds me a lot of Queensryche, what's his name? I've gone blank. I can't think of it. Yeah, the singer from Queensryche anyway. God, that's so embarrassing. He has a very similar timbre when he hits those high notes, and it's because he's using that same technique. It's kind of like, it sounds really powerful, but you can tell that it's actually rather quiet and run through the PA system to boost the level. But it just sounds like that to me. She's not like, you know, with female singers singing high, you typically expect them, okay, that's their range, and they're just singing up here. This feels a lot more like that sort of 80s vocalizing technique. That's really unusual and different. I like it though. It's really cool because it's just like, it took me by surprise, and anytime a singer can do that, it's always a good thing. See, that seems like a natural place for someone like me to place like a high melody, right? And then she's got those high notes up there, but it feels like, you know, she's just, I'd do it, but at the moment it's early. I should really warm up before doing these. Nice doubling there. I love how throughout he's doubling her with his low growls. It just adds like an extra dimension to her vocal. It's one of those things where if you're not listening carefully, you might not hear it, but it sort of just underpins what she's doing really nicely. God damn it, Jeff Tate. It just popped into my head. I'm sorry, Jeff. Much respect. Mindcrime is just genius. Wow. So yeah, like just going back, it's just some strong power melodies, fast-paced sort of rhythmic sort of chops, you know. The guitar player is just doing everything he can to flex those fast runs and chops and stuff, which is really cool. And what was that harmony there? So she's doing that high scream, and then there's also higher, like a third higher sort of harmonies on both sides as well, which is impressive. Man, just from a vocalizing perspective, this would be, this would be a tough sing, right? It's one of those songs singers all know, you know, there's songs that are complex, right? The songs that are tricky with like, you know, like melodic articulations that are complicated. Think like, you know, anything sort of by, you know, Mariah Carey or whatever, that's just got a lot of vocal runs and stuff like that. They can be tricky for a lot of people because it requires a lot of practice and stuff like that to be able to generate those sounds. You know, it's muscle memory, right? To be able to move that stuff around. Then all singers understand that there's certain songs that sound simpler, but are just a tough sing. And the reason for that is it's all up, right? Everything is just belting high for the entire duration of the song. And so that can just be fatiguing, right? And it's really hard to keep hitting the pitches and stuff like that. Particularly, it's not like that it's it's got high notes in it. It's that the average note is up, right? So everything is sort of lifted and elevated. And so you've got to have that breath support and that control to be able to comfortably just keep on doing these big soaring melodies. There's nowhere in this song to rest because there's not really any sort of parts that sort of bring it down where you're not sort of elevating everything to get all the melodies, you know? So this is what I would consider to be a really tough sing at a show. It's one of those ones I guarantee you that she has a place in the set where she prefers to sing it. Probably not right up front, probably not right at the end. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. But it's just as being around singers, I know that that's the case. And this song just seems like a tough sing. So solo is interesting. I mean, I think there's more coming, but that's a perfect example of what we call two-handed tapping. Obviously, you can see what he's doing there. But if we go back, you can sort of see it. It's not often you get to see exactly the techniques that they use, but they do some nice close-up. See exactly right there what he's doing. Interesting. There's a string bent there. I wonder what's going on there. But, you know, so what you'll do is you'll hammer on a note up higher on the fretboard, and then you'll pull it off to like a low note, and then you'll hammer on the middle note. So you go dee-da-da-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da. And it's a really useful technique to play a lot of notes across a wide range of the fingerboard, but with minimal effort. Now, another thing you'll notice if you look up close here, you'll see that the front of his finger is shredded, right? So just above the fingernail, you can see how the skin's all torn away. That's a guarantee from the music video, because when you're playing guitar, you've got all of these steel strings, right? And as you're strumming, typically what you want is for the guitar pick to hit the strings. But when you're rocking out in a music video, or say, for example, you're doing an extremely energetic live performance, sometimes as you're strumming really hard, your finger digs into those strings and it grazes this part of your finger. I've come off stage many times and I've had like blood all over this hand. And one time I took a black light to my guitar, my other guitar, my 7-string, and all through here was just blood spatter, just from doing shows and stuff like that and not cleaning it properly. So yeah, that's actually a really common occurrence, especially doing music videos where you're probably performing a little bit more aggressively than you normally would when you're playing live. Or if you're doing a lot of jumping around on stage, if there's a particular song where you just hammer in the guitar, you'll scrape your fingers. It's just one of the many things that guitar players have to do to suffer for their art. That and finger calluses. But yeah, but that's just nice to see. It's not just me. Melodic solo. I gotta say, I gotta say, thank God that there's people out there who are just playing straight up rock and roll. You know, a lot of the stuff I've done on this channel has been super interesting because, you know, there's obviously some immense talent around there in this sort of side of rock and metal, right? But I like that there's still bands out there who aren't trying to reinvent the wheel. You know, this is a straight 4/4 sort of pulse. Nothing's too syncopated or over the top, or they're not sort of trying to bamboozle you with weird time signatures or crazy accents against straight time, things like that. It's just straight up shreddy rock and roll. And you know what? Sometimes that's exactly what you need, you know? I mean, with bands like Ginger, who are very groove based, or Gojira, who are doing some odd things as well, or, you know, obviously bands like Tool, where there's, you know, nothing is what it seems. Sometimes just having, you know, just the presence of mind to just be like, you know what, fuck it, straight up rock and roll, you know? And that's exactly what this is, and I'm here for it. It's great. It's just, this is just Power Metal 101. It's just perfect, right?
Let's go!
That was just straight up low. That wasn't like a low, I mean, it's a low growl, but it's just a straight up, you know, there wasn't growl technique there. He's just hitting that low thing. And that's rough on the voice, man. I love it. That's so cool. Very cool. Very cool. We'll be right back. In this post-apocalyptic world, you might find that you don't need great color vision. But, well, actually, we're not in a post-apocalyptic world. We're in a post-COVID world, which is basically the same thing. But there's times in your life where you're going to need to see color, and you might want to see a sunset the way everybody else does. And in that case, there's something you can do about it. Click the link in the description. It'll take you to the Enchroma website, where you can get a free eye test and find out what kind of color deficiency you have, and while you're there, pick up some corrective lenses. They've got styles that suit everybody. And you know what? If you use the code CHAOS in checkout, you'll get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you. Okay, so that was just fun. That was just a great, fun song, right? Nothing too challenging in the lyrical poetry or anything like that. It was pretty much exactly what you expect. Which is, you know, to say that there's a lot in this song that's just, you know, kind of what you expect. But I don't want that to come off as me being diminishing at all, because this is exactly sometimes what you want. You want straight up 4/4 balls to the wall, blast beat rock and roll, right? And that's what these guys are delivering. I don't know what the rest of their material's like, but this is just, to me, this is like a masterclass in doing this kind of song. You know, everything was great, spot on. The vocals are soaring, melodic. It's just power metal, right? And it's power metal done the way you want it to be. Nothing, no complexity for complexity's sake. I keep coming back to that. It's just, you know, there's some fast shreddy soloing, and there's some great riffing and some galloping riffs and all of the things that you'd want to check the boxes of. But it's just fun. Like, this is the kind of song you put on in the car and you just belt along to and probably get a speeding ticket. You know what I mean? And it's just, you know, there's always room for that in rock and metal, right? As I mentioned, the vocalist has a really unusual technique. I mean, to most people, it probably just sounds like a chick singing, and she's just doing a thing. But to me, it just felt like she uses a far more masculine vocal technique, which is interesting because it's kind of in line with, you know, traditionally, you know, when I started this channel, it was definitely more to do with growling and screaming. And so, you know, you get like, I don't like to draw comparisons between bands that shouldn't be compared really, but like with Ginger, right? Tatiana, you could consider that her vocalizations are a much more masculine technique, right? Because, you know, screaming and growling originally came from masculine pursuits, right? She's the master of it, don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is it seems like to the uncultured swine who you expose that kind of music to, they'll be like, oh, she sounds like a man, right? I'm not saying that this lady sounds like a man, but what I'm saying is that the way that she uses her voice to get to those high notes seems a little bit more of a masculine technique. And that just boggled my mind, right? So she's definitely not a soprano or anything like that. I'd say she's probably a mezzo, contralto, possibly as well. I don't know, but vocal ranges are funny because you could, just because say you're a mezzo soprano, right, or something like that, doesn't mean that that's the only notes you can sing. It's just the range of notes from lowest to highest that you sing comfortably in, right? And then you can obviously train and you can get much higher and you can get much lower. And then you get situations where it becomes complicated to try and determine what range somebody has because, you know, for example, you might be a singer who is a mezzo, but you've gone to a vocal coach your entire life who never noticed that and was pushing you to be a soprano the whole time. And so they've extended your range out to have all of these super high notes. But then you sort of, you've always thought of yourself as a soprano because you can hit those notes, but realistically your core range or your core register sort of sits more comfortably in a mezzo range. And so that's why it's always tricky to sort of pinpoint, you know, everybody seems to think that they know, oh, X or Y is a such and such, right? It's not always that cut and dried. It may be a little bit easier with opera training and stuff like that because, you know, an opera coach is going to know what they're doing and they're going to sort of work you through your register where you're going to fit in an opera. Like when they're hiring vocalists for opera, they'll be like, I need a mezzo and I need a soprano and I need, you know, a tenor for this role, blah, blah, blah. And so it matters, right? But if you're just fronting a rock band, it doesn't matter as long as you're hitting notes that sort of make sense for the listener, right? But the way that she sort of goes up into almost like what seems almost like a falsetto register, it just seems a little bit unusual, mostly because female singers tend to have higher voices and they don't need to do that to hit those notes. Yeah, but it's just really, really interesting. I'm actually quite the fan. I think that's a great voice because it allows her to have a little bit more grit up there, right? You heard sometimes she'll hit those high notes and the yeah up there, and then she'll put some yeah, put a little bit of extra grit on there, which is really cool as well, you know? And then she can sort of do those high notes and then she can harmonize with them with like a cleaner tone, and you get this really wide sort of lush sound as well. So, wow, I'm impressed. That was definitely cool. If you guys know of any other Unleash the Archers songs that might be a little bit different to this, show another side of the band, I'd really be keen to sort of see that because, you know, I feel like there's a lot more potential for these guys than maybe what was displayed in this song. Not to say that it wasn't great, but just to say that I feel like maybe they've got some other tricks up their sleeve that I'd be interested in seeing. So, yeah, that was really cool. Thank you so much for the tips on that one. As always, if you feel like I've brightened your day at all, feel free to buy me a coffee. I'll put a link in the description. All these songs get demonetized. And, you know, also like, share, subscribe. You guys have been doing a fantastic job of that so far. So thank you again. And you know what? Yeah, keep the suggestions coming. My journey through the valley of heavy metal has been really, really interesting. And, yeah, this was a great one. I'm super excited to hear more of their stuff. So thanks again, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.